consequences for repeated poor behavior, and how would you go about correcting it?
Okay, so that's a really good question, because right in the question, it assumes there are consequences for poor behavior, because in many cases there aren't, right? In many cases, it's like, this person just always does this or that, and that's just how they are. Okay, well, if you accept that, then that's where you're at, and you're never going to grow beyond that person. Mm-hmm. How many times have we seen this, right? There's one person, we can't live without him, or we don't want to upset the apple cart, so we got this one person that is now the cap for the team. It's really painful to rip off that Band-Aid, by the way, but when you do and you get through it, then you see what you can do, right? Then you see the potential that the team always had that you just couldn't realize. So what are the consequences? Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends, right? It depends what this person is doing. If it's like very simple stuff, like, they're just not following a system, then that's a training issue. So I would define, I hate the word non-compliance, but someone who just doesn't following the process that you're teaching them in two ways. I would say it's either a training issue, like I can keep working on this person and they'll get it, because not everyone gets it quickly. And by the way, that comes back to hiring, right? Mm-hmm. So usually this is not a person that we hired. Like, this is a long-standing employee that they had when we inherited this problem when we took on the member, right? Mm-hmm. So we didn't help to hire this person through our process, because genuinely we can weed this stuff out. Having said that, it is either a training issue where I can keep working with this person and get them there, or it is a will-to-do issue, meaning this person just doesn't want to do it. They just, resistant, right? I can't work with that. You know what I mean? Resistant is like, maybe I could reach him, but I'm not a psychologist and I have other things to do. So to me, it's like, maybe this is better somebody else's problem. Maybe they're not a fit for us. And that's how I look at those problems. Now, having said that, consequences-wise, because you asked that question specifically, I mean, there has to be, the first thing that we do based on our human nature is we want to assign fault and penalty. And I can give you a long explanation as to why that is, but it's not really relevant today. The thing is to know that we do that, okay? Bottom line. So I have found, and this is not like some revelation that I'm going to give you. You can figure this one out on your own. But if someone is not, if you're not finding common ground with someone and you want to, then maybe you need to go first and change the relationship in some way. Maybe they're just responding to you. Maybe they don't know what to do, or there's something in the relationship that is a problem. So I would first try to speak to the person and just simply have a conversation. Just say, hey, look, by the way, this is culture module. Shock, right? It's the second module in the program. I would go to them and I would just have a conversation. Just have the talk. Most of the times when these things come up, by the way, and I'm on a call or you're on a call with someone, I mean, I can tell you from my experience that usually I ask the question, or my first piece of advice is, have you put this on the table yet? Does this person know how you feel? Well, they know what they're supposed to do. No, that's not what I asked. Do they know how you feel? Have you just said, look, dude, how many times have you seen me have this conversation with people? It doesn't have to be a difficult conversation. You don't have to make it. See, I don't like difficult conversations, by the way. Nobody does, right? Nobody likes to have difficult conversations. Because what happens, and nobody's immune to this, is if you hold off on the difficult conversation for days, weeks, months, the magnitude of the explosion is literally dependent on the amount of time you've been hanging on to that. If it's been months, be prepared, because it's not going to be pretty, right? Mm-hmm. It's better to just say, look, this is what's happening. This is what I'm seeing happen. This is how I'm feeling about it. This is what problems it's causing. Can we do it this way? Can you try to do it the way we were taught to do it? What's holding you back? Help me understand what I can do to make it easier for you to do what needs to be done. I don't know, choose your question, right? But those are all like friendly ways to come about it, to just start the thing, start the process, you know? Mm-hmm. And again, we can get into, I don't know, I mean, there's a million ways that people can be, you know, quote unquote misbehaving. But that's a starting point. It's just at a high level, have a conversation. Don't start with, how am I going to penalize this person? Start with, have I even had the discussion? Because from there, if you're talking about how, you know, what's the consequence, you're talking about how quickly can I get rid of this person, bottom line. That's where you are. You've already decided that I've given up on the person. But if you haven't tried, then how are you giving up? Right? That's how I would see it. Because when I start thinking, well, gee, what am I going to do about, what are you going to do? Right? It's like, you know, once you call the police on your neighbor, they don't like you anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's done. You're not going to save that easily, right? Like once you start it, you're in the weeds, you know? And that's a life lesson I will throw out there, and I think most people can figure that out, but it's, you get your back up, and I get it because I pay this person. And I don't know what I can say to them because I'm their employer. You know, you don't have to get into their personal life either. You just have to, like, I can name 1,000 things that I've dealt with, and I try to make light of them, right? I try to make jokes, I try to make it funny, but they get my point. You know, I try not to, like, you know, have the like stern dad conversation, you know? Come with me, let's have a talk. You know, it's like, you know, I'll grab him for a second, you know, like, look, you're not happy, I'm not happy, here's the issue, you know what it is. How can we fix it? Like, you know I know you know the answer because you're closer to it than I am. What are we doing here? Like, what do you recommend? How can we solve this? Right? The person will probably respond properly or at least somewhat favorably, and you can solve it. If it's a total blow up and the person is just like, can't, you know, if they're coming undone on you, it may not be a good fit for the team. So you may be going down that road. Okay, but I would just go back to, like I said earlier, training issue or will to do issue, and make the distinction. If I can reach the person with training, I will keep working on them. I'll keep coaching them. I'll keep, again, leadership workshop, right? I'm going to keep saying that probably all day. But keep working on them, keep building them up. And if they won't do it, then, you know, how long must I beat my head against the wall?
That's true.
Yeah.